Hello. So this video is a short chat between myself and a guy called Duncan from Mycelium in Wales. Duncan brought some wine cap spawn for me a couple of years ago and has since realised quite how productive this spawn actually is, and has essentially gone on to start selling wine caps to restaurants and to other local enterprises, just due to the sheer number of mushrooms that he's been harvesting. So I thought this would be a really interesting thing to talk to someone about their experience from growing wine cap mushrooms and really starting it as a means of being able to grow mushrooms for themselves at their house, and then realizing that they had far too many and ended up wanting to sell them. So yeah, I hope you really enjoy this, and if you want to find out more and get hold of some spawn, do follow the link from the description and you can grab it from our shop. How's it going? It's nice to finally meet you in person.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, not too bad.
So,
Yeah.
how did you find out about wine cap in the first place?
I started, I guess, because I do quite a lot of gardening anyway. So we grow. My favourite thing to grow is chilies. Really, I really like growing chilies, but other sweet peppers and things. And I think I was listening to a blog or something. Was a gardener in North America was had a big wood chip bed with various chili plants and things growing in it, and I was slightly interested. And then we had a tree surgeon do some work at our place, and suddenly we had a lot of wood chip that, we use a lot of compost. And I'm saying, well, we need to break this down, as quickly as we can to be able to use it in the garden. The best way is to get some mushrooms colonizing it that will break it down quickly.
Yeah,
that's when I really started looking around, and that's when I found you, and sent across for a couple of kilos of of spawn to start off.
Is it still all growing from that original bag?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you remember, but I got 2 kilos from you, and I sent you a message. I said, oh, it doesn't look fully, this bag doesn't look fully colonized. And you said, oh, don't worry about it. I'll send you another kilo. I want you to have a couple of kilos.
Yeah.
That was me.
And I remember now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I said then, fair play. If it does really well, I'll pay for this second batch that you're sending me for free. And and sure enough, I got the first year I got 25 kilos of mushrooms off quite a small bed, about, I suppose it was 4 by 2 meters.
Yeah,
like that.
That's really good.
Yeah,
25 kilos is a lot of mushrooms. Like, I know what that looks like, several crates full.
Yeah, it was a lot of mushrooms. And it was and I even got some. I started quite late. It was sort of early in the year that I got the spawn from you, and then I still had some fruiting in a small way in sort of late June, the first year, and then the majority of it, must have been 90% of it, was in the autumn.
Yeah.
And that was a sort of bed of varying depth from sort of 10 to 12 inches deep to sort of 6 to 8.
Mm-hmm.
They almost all fruited on the shallower wood chip, but they did colonize it all.
Yeah.
Eventually, although I did send you some photos that showed at the base of the deeper wood chip, you could see a sort of green mold layer at the base of the wood where it touched the soil, and the soil was dry underneath, very different to the shallow where it's very moist, rich brown soil. So there wasn't that interaction between the fungi and the
definitely
you have for fruiting. So I was I wanted to experiment a bit, so I was noting all these things, and then of course, so the end of the season, and I've got a fully colonized bed, and then the school needed a bit of tree surgery work done, which is right next door.
And the wood chip kept coming,
and it was oak this time, and yeah. And meanwhile, over the summer, I had started off another wood chip bed, which is in holly leaves and some holly wood chip, using stem butts. So the double crop of having you get your fruit, you get your mushrooms, and you put them in your fridge, and then you go and put the other the other crop, starting some more, and then that was starting to colonize. I could see that was going quite well, and then we got some oak wood chip. So I sort of almost trebled the size of the first bed, and it is purely wood chip. It's not, I haven't got any fruit, or I've got no fruit bushes or anything. So what size is it? I've got it written down. So my main bed is 6.2 by 5.5 meters. So it's quite big.
Yeah, that is quite big.
And it's under a big oak tree. And it's quite close to where we have some compost bins. And apart from slugs and squirrels digging in it, because they always seem to bury acorns inside it.
Got new oak trees coming up all the time.
Yeah. So things like that.
Yeah.
It's I haven't really done very much with it. I've essentially just added wood chip to it.
Yeah.
Spread the I added the sort of extended it, and then mixed in some of the fully colonized bed. I basically, where I made big holes in the, I took big chunks out, like bricks of mycelium that was solid, and spread it into the fresh stuff in the autumn, which is, ideal time to do it.
Yeah.
And once I'd done that, I just threw some fresh wood chip over the old colonized bed as well.
Yeah.
And then, retired until the spring, when it really took off.
That's the spring that's just happened, this one.
Yeah, this spring. Yeah. So this is only the second year.
Yeah.
And to give people a sort of rough idea of what's happened is I've certainly I've picked certainly over 130 kilos. I've sold just over 50 kilos for which was it, 530 quid. So there's a mixture of reasons for that. At the start of the season, I was selling them for £18 a kilo, and then I started to get too much, because I only had a certain number of outlets. It's a very small town I live in.
Yeah.
So sort of saturation.
It's such a wine cap saturation in the village. No more mushrooms, Duncan. No more mushrooms.
Well, that's the thing. Everybody loves them, but yeah, they're very popular. And I was selling, I'd sell 20. So I was selling 6 kilos on a market stall on a Wednesday. So, but obviously I had to pay £20 to sort of get into that, and also 20% of my sales money went into the stall. So I lost some money there. I wasn't making £18 a kilo there.
Yeah.
And then as the amount of mushrooms became impossible to handle, I then moved into sort of lowering my price and saying, take them uncleaned for a lower price, and I can shift more quicker then, and I don't have to spend several hours in the evening cleaning mushrooms.
It is quite a big job when they really come in thick and fast, and just tidying them up.
Yeah, my worst day was 12 kilos in one day. So I had 12 kilos of mushrooms to clean in one day. I mean, that was, for me and my partner Heather, that was, it was a good couple of 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Cleaning mushrooms and sorting them. And then another day I had 9 kilos. So and then probably my next best, I'm not sure if it is best or worst. my next worst day was a 5 kilo day.
Yeah.
And, I had quite a lot of sort of 5 kilos.
Yeah.
3 kilograms in a day I could just about cope with. And but even then it's quite a commitment to be cleaning them every day,
Yeah.
especially when, you know, the kids come home from school, and that's when I'm, you know, I'm trying to finish off some work, and then, and then I've got to clean these mushrooms, and it's like, Dad, it's meant to do this. And but instead I'm saying, I've got to clean these mushrooms first. It doesn't go down very well.
It was definitely the right move to sell them like dirty to the restaurants and they get their KPs to do the cleaning up instead. Like,
Well, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and I've just sold them to people locally who, you know, who are happy to take them like that.
Yeah.
And I've also bartered some as well for some very nice pizza from a place, a bakery that makes very nice sourdough pieces.
Nice.
So a bit of bartering, and you know, and reducing the price. So in the end, my average price per kilo was £10.60 or something like that.
Okay.
You know, so it's the bartering and the 20% on the stall and various things really lowered my per kilo price, but I wasn't actually in it to make any money. So, but I
just had too many mushrooms. I know that train of thought, and I know what happens, because exactly what I did as well before I turned commercial, because I was just a hobby grower originally, and then suddenly just got to this point where I was like, what do I do with all of these? Like, there's way more here than I'm gonna eat.
Yeah, that is absolutely it. And it's a horrible thought that they're going to be wasted, and
totally.
So essentially I've sold 50 kilos and I've given away about, you know, 130 to 100, about 100 kilos, about sort of 70 to 100 kilos I've given away to friends, and I was giving them away at the school gate a few times. I've also, obviously, I've cooked down, you know, I've probably got 30 kilos in the fridge or something. In the fridge, sorry, cooked down and portioned up for various meals. So I'm gonna, so I never have to buy mushrooms again.
What's your favorite meal so far?
That's a good question. I mean, I think it's because I really like mushrooms, you know, and I'm someone who go foraging mushrooms as well. So I actually, I mean, I just like mushrooms and a slice of really nice sourdough bread or something.
Yeah.
So you're actually enjoying the flavour of the mushrooms. But I have made quite a nice mushroom curry and various other things. I'm currently drying some mushrooms, which sort of making mushroom jerky. I don't know if you've ever tried that before.
No, I haven't, but yeah, it sounds good.
Cooking them down I'm making a sort of sweet and salty, sort of sticky marinade, cooking them in that, and then drying them out, and they're a sort of chewy, quite moorish sort of snack.
Nice.
Probably just as unhealthy as every other salty sweet snack.
What makes them taste so good?
But it's got a mushroom on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's quite interesting, and that'd be a way to you know, when you've got a big glut, to maybe process something like that.
Yeah.
The problem is it's not really necessarily adding value, because it's such a high value mushroom already. Processing it doesn't really add. You can't really add a lot of value.
What's the future plans for the ever expanding mushroom farm? Are you going to add more beds, or?
Well, yeah, talking about more beds, I've got a 12 by 3 meter fruit cage that I'm building at the moment, which is raspberries and red currants and black currants.
Okay.
And so that's already partly. I mean, I've had a few kilos. It's got, you know, that's where all the stem butts are going at the moment. And I'll probably extend that a little bit. And deal with the quantities there. No. What am I going to do? Well, when the autumn comes, and I'm absolutely, because I can imagine how swamped I'm going to be, I think I'm probably going to just sell them uncleaned, and just try and, you know, sell them in bulk. Just so I can actually shift them.
Yeah.
And then I don't really have a plan, to be honest, except, you know, every time I sort of see you know, some tree surgery work going on.
I love that.
Spare there. There's
Yeah.
lots of people. There's lots of people in the valley who are growers who are really interested in wine caps.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of people interested in taking some of my spawn and starting it off, see how it goes. So, and I know some have already been to you and ordered some spawn, I think.
Yeah.
So what I'm hoping is that the whole of the Dovey Valley becomes a mushroom growing paradise. And
Nice.
because we have this, I mean, we have the absolute perfect weather for it. I mean,
You really do, yeah. It's really, really good.
It's always humidity is high even in the middle of summer, and I mean the amount of rainfall we get, although we do get more heavy, rainfall events than we used to, it's less spread out. But if you start off your mushroom bed in the autumn, you're guaranteed, to have a really, well colonized bed by the spring, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the weather just does all the work for you. Which is one of the reasons why I chose wine caps, of course, because they're notoriously easy to grow.
They are indeed, and that's what I tell everyone when they're buying it. It's like literally, like this is the one. If you've got outdoor space, this is definitely the mushroom to start with, because it's very forgiving, and very, very aggressive in terms of the way that it colonizes, as you've probably seen. Like it is quite almost alarming how quickly it can colonize an entire bed of wood chip, and it's just that kind of thick mat of mycelium where you can like you said, take whole bricks like structures of wood chip that's just been like matted into one block.
I mean, once it's colonized, and this is one of the things, because I made these very big beds, rather than having like a narrow bed that you could reach from two sides or something. So I have to walk over the bed all the time. So I'm always looking and hoping that I'm not stepping on it. But you notice how solid it is. You can walk over it, and it's a really solid mass. It's really interesting when you start digging into it. And, seeing all these structures underneath the ground, under the in the wood chip, and what it's doing. And those big, the big root-like rhizomorphs or whatever. You know what they're called.
Rhizomorphic cells.
I mean, they're massive. They're great big root-like structures going through everything. Holding it all together. It's quite amazing.
How quickly do you find they eat the chip down? So say if you're putting down like 10-12 centimeters of chip at a time usually?
Well, I mean, it's turned, I suppose, the beach. I think it ate the beach quicker than anything, because I started off with beach. It definitely digested that into a sort of spongy, very, in that first year. Whereas the oak is taking a bit longer, I think.
And it's just a lot denser, so it's got a lot more in it.
I wonder, it may have more food in there as well. So I'm not sure at what stage I'll ever get any compost out of it, because I keep adding to it, and I'm not sure whether I should remove it, the lower wood chip, and use that in the garden as
I mean, this is why I usually go with planting the soft fruit trick through the bed, because you don't need to worry about it then, and then all those nutrients it
breaks down, and then you keep adding at the top, and it's breaking down. So it'd be perfect for any sort of no dig.
It works really well in a kind of forest garden setting as well, as like a ground cover layer. So where you might do like some strawberries and stuff growing around on the ground to like keep the ground covered.
So it's been quite an interesting experience.
Come from I just tried growing a few mushrooms in the garden to I'm now selling mushrooms in like 1 year. It's good.
It was pretty quick. It really escalated and got out of hand very rapidly. So thanks for that.
It's all right.
yeah, it was. Originally it was literally let's digest some wood chip and get a crop of mushrooms at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's two benefits.
Yeah.
And now it's, yeah, I'm more interested in growing the mushrooms, but yeah, I am. Yeah, I mean, I'm still eating a pan of mushrooms a day. Some connection with something else in their diet.
Yeah.
Something else they're eating that combined with wine caps, maybe.
Mm.
Yeah. So that was interesting, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'll probably drop dead tomorrow. I think they're pretty popular.
Yeah.
Thing to note is that yeah, I took them to the school gate, and my two kids are in the local primary school, and so and people were interested to come and look at this big box of mushrooms I had, and I just was literally handing out mushrooms and saying, yeah, and try this, and some of them were really big, chunky,
Yeah.
stem, as thick as your wrist sort of size.
Yeah.
So they're really quite an impressive mushroom when they look like that. They're like, what is this? Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely got its own another name of the garden giant is what it's known as well. Yeah, I think my biggest one was 500 grams in one mushroom. It's like bigger, way bigger than my hand. Like the cap is absolutely huge.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm aiming for. I really want to see how big they can get. I don't know, but somewhere out on the internet there is a photograph of a wine cap mushroom sitting on like a garden, like a picnic chair sort of thing, like a rolled up chair, and the cap of it is the size of a dustbin. And way wider than the chair, and the stem must be probably 4-5 inches thick. So
Wow.
it must have been way over a kilo, when it was a smaller mushroom.
Yeah.
It's absolutely phenomenal size. That's why I was sort of thinking, oh, maybe if you have the bigger your substrate is, maybe you've got a massive substrate, we're going to get one or two, like one or two mushrooms will just set off and go massive. So that's what I was intrigued by. But so far I think 300 grams is my biggest mushroom. That was last year.
So what are your main takeaways from it? Like, what's been the best thing about growing it, and what's been the worst thing about growing them?
Well, ironically, the worst thing about it is also the best thing, which is it's just the sheer quantity that I've actually got growing is hard to deal with, especially, as I say, when you don't want such good food to be wasted, but you also know there's some value in it, and you don't want to devalue it by. And so, sometimes you're selling it, and if you're selling it, it feels wrong to be giving away. Just sell it to someone and then give loads of it away as well at the same time. To be honest, I don't really see any downsides. I don't know why anybody wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
If they do any gardening, then, if you've got any space in your garden, I mean, I've given them some spawn, bits of colonized wood chip, and just shoved in a bag and given to a few friends to try, and I think if you do a bit of gardening, you've got a shady patch in the garden with a tree or anything, you could do a small area. You're going to get a few pounds for the mushrooms out of it, but you've got to keep an eye on it and not miss them when they do come up.
Yeah, that's it. Like any bit of gardening that you do, there is some amount of maintenance involved in it.
Yeah, I think local people, who do market gardening and have small holdings or small farms, it would make sense that if they grew some mushrooms.
Yeah, definitely. I've been working with a farm in Frome, and they've got 250 by 1 meter strips.
Wow.
Yeah, they did 3.5 tons this autumn.
really gone into it for
Just like when she's like, yeah, we'd harvested 3.5 tons, and I was like, what?
yeah.
Yeah, really going for it on the wine cap.
Yeah. So that, they should appear, wine cap should become more.
I think it will in time. I don't think it will come into the supermarkets because the way it grows is just not suited for like mass production in that respect.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but from a small local scale, I think there probably will be a lot more people starting to grow them. And it's nice that it's kind of seasonal as well, where it's not like you have to commit to it for like day in, day out for like ever. And you can, yeah, it gets crazy for that period, but then you do get the like summer break and the winter break, obviously, as well.
Yeah. I mean, even when, it started to quieten down after like about 3 or 4 weeks, it started to slow down, and I was starting to feel some relief. And then like for a couple of days, I only picked like a kilo.
Yeah.
No, that's it really. And I said to friends and people who were interested in Russia, I say, it's stopped now. And then it started again. and yeah, and stupidly, I was still quite excited when it restarted. When I suddenly thought, crikey, there's a massive fruiting suddenly started off again. It was just, I think there's a lower temperature, and it just got a bit showery.
Yeah.
It just set them fruiting again, really.
Well, I'm so glad that it's going so well, and it's really nice. I hear a few other stories from people who've been growing them as well, where this farm that I've been working with, and generally it seems to be pretty positive across the board. And
people even people who don't really like mushrooms, or don't like the texture of a normal mushroom, like my partner Heather, she actually likes these. If I cook them, sort of dry fry them, so you get rid of some of that moisture content.
Yeah.
You can get that sort of chewiness, that you can't really get with anything. It's a meaty sort of chewiness that you can only get with sort of wine cap mushrooms and sort of bacon or something.
All right, Duncan, thank you so much for that. And it's been really lovely chatting to you and hearing about everything that you've been up to. So
Nice to chat. Yeah, cheers, bye.